There are a lot of things that we are afraid of. They say the number one fear is speaking before a public audience, public speaking. And of course people are afraid of death. But one of the fears that I know I've had, and I wonder if you've had as well, is the fear of money. I was so afraid of money up until about 10, 15 years ago actually, and I got over my fear of wondering whether I would have enough or whether I'd be protected in the next 20 years or 10 years from now, and what if this happened, what if that happened. And the way I did that was to go and get myself an education about money. I needed to make a shift, a transformation in my life around the topic of money. I was paranoid about it. And the way in which I did that was to learn the language of money. Now, one of the things I also do is with young people is to teach them financial literacy. And there's so much as women that we need to learn ourselves. True, the kids haven't learned it from the parents, but a lot of times that's because the parents don't really understand the language of money themselves in a way that would really empower their children to become financially responsible as adults. So often women say to me, oh my gosh, if I knew now, or rather if I knew back then what I know now, I would have started saving ages ago. And so often we think it's too late. But I ask you, how old are you? I know in my age range, I can expect, assuming I continue with good health, I can expect to live another 20 or 30 years. And so, as I say, if not now, when? So if I'm only just getting started now, I still have 20 years. So like, let's say you were 20 years old and you started saving. So by the time you're 40 and investing, and by the time you're 40, you're really doing well. You're really pleased with what you've done in your life. Okay, so you didn't start at 20. You're past 40. Let's say you're 50 or 60. Nevertheless, you still have enough time ahead of you to make a difference in your life. David Bach's book, Start Late, Finish Rich. A no-fail plan for achieving financial freedom at any age. I mean, really, it is so important that we all understand that we need to start right where we are. Right where we are. And we need to set some goals. We tell the kids, see it, say it, write it down. We do need to set some financial goals for ourselves. Now, obviously, when it gets to, you want to have a financial planner or a financial professional to help you with some of the more technical things. But there is so much that you can learn on your own. There's so much that you can do to self-educate so that you can begin making the practical steps toward the goals that you want to see. I know that Susie Orman has a book called The Money Class, Learn to Create Your New American Dream. There's tons of materials out there, and I say grab 4 or 5 of your girlfriends, decide that, in fact, April is Financial Literacy Month. Most people don't seem to know about that, but make a determination that you're going to get a system, whatever that system is that works for you. You're going to find and implement a system so that you can finally get some kind of control over your financial situation. And it wasn't a hole that got dug in 6 months. Sometimes it's decades worth of poor money habits that find people in a place where they currently are. I just heard a statistic that says that 67% of baby boomers cannot afford to retire. That in order to live and maintain their lifestyles, they're pretty much going to work for the rest of their lives. So they're working because they have to, maintain themselves. Not even necessarily in the way they've been accustomed to, but they have to maintain themselves, and so they must continue to work, as opposed to working because it's your choice. One of the first things as you begin to commit to changing and transforming your relationship with money is to understand what your beliefs and attitudes and expectations are around money. A lot of us grew up hearing our parents' fears said to us over and over again. Our parents would say, money doesn't grow on trees. No, we can't afford that. I work hard for my money. There's so much negative talk that we have grown up with money. One of my favorite money principles, again, that we share with young people, I share with adult women who are seeking to make a shift in their lives, is creating financial freedom is simply a matter of developing the right habits. Creating financial freedom is simply a matter of developing the right habits. And these are habits that can be changed if you have a system. If you can figure out something that helps you discipline what you do with every single dollar that comes into your hand. It's having a conscious awareness of not only the power and the value of money, which sometimes we don't have, but it's not just a conscious awareness, but it is understanding that every time a dollar, $10, $100 passes through your hand, that you have a choice. So let me introduce you to a system that I really do believe is an answer for pretty much any of us at any age. And it's called the money jar system. And basically, it's Elizabeth Donati, a simple system to make sure you always have the money for everything you need and everything you want. Now, what makes the money jar system so perfect to me is the practical way in which it encourages you to allocate your funds. And again, I love it because it's translatable. The kids get it, they understand it, and even though you may not use a jar, of course we won't, but the concept is taught through the jars, and you can use accounts, and it is a sure, fast way to make sure that you know where your money is going, that you're actually allocating it. So let me run through them really quickly. I've got the savings jar in my hand, and basically you need to save about 10%. It's amazing. We are an American culture that really doesn't do well with saving. And so a lot of times you lose a job, couple of months later you still don't have a job. Most people in this country aren't in a position where they can hold on to their homes, their cars, their possessions simply because they have failed to save for the rainy day. So the savings jar, your rainy day jar. The financial freedom account, the FFA jar, is a really, really vital jar because what it does, it teaches us from when we're young. Now, young can be 60, so don't start where you are, but it teaches us to put a certain percentage of our money, everything that comes through our hand, for that day when we do retire, so that when we choose to retire, we're in a position to retire. So that's a very, very important job because it actually encourages you to put something away for a day that might be 20 years away, 30 years, 40 years away, depending on when you get started. The play jar. We all want to have fun, but sometimes there are people, young people, old people, who spend just a little bit too much of their budget doing the things that are tons of fun. So Now, we all know as adults by now that there are a lot of fun things that we can do that don't cost, but if you actually save for your vacation or have a projection of what it is you want to do in 3 months, then if you put a certain portion of your money away for your play, and I believe we should all play. We work hard, we should play hard, but we need to play responsibly, and we need to play in playgrounds that we can afford. And so rather than putting your play money on a credit card, save it in cash so that when you're ready, it's there. And then there's the donations jar, and all of us understand the importance of giving back. The donations jar represents our ability to give back into our communities, into our places of worship, into far-off places that we know nothing about the people, but we just want to, as a world citizen, we actually want to do whatever we can. And sometimes people feel like, well, I can't afford to give. I mean, I'm going from paycheck to paycheck, but 5%, 10% of whatever you bring home, how often you want to do it. It could be once a month, it could be every 2 weeks, it could be every quarter, but there's always something that you can put away. The education jar is another important jar that we can use really at any age, because we should always be learning, and there's so many different workshops and retreats and college courses, even if you want to go back and take something, or you've got a new computer and you really don't know much about how to work it. New phone, how to interact with the technology that we have that seems to change from quarter to quarter, from month to month. So really, the education jar allows you to put just a little bit away, even if it's just 5%, 10% of whatever amount of income you decide to take it away from, so that you can add to that jar, and the next time you see a course, a workshop, a retreat that you want to attend, you've already got something stashed away for it. And finally, the biggie, our living jar. The living jar is where most of our income goes. It's for our rent, it's for our food, it's for our mortgages, it's for the car payment, it's for those things that really we can't, quote unquote, live without. And what's really important at any stage of our lives is that we understand what kind of lifestyle we really can afford. So if you're in your 20s and you've just finished college, you don't need to take out a credit card and start ramping up because you're trying to get the best of everything. If you're in your 30s and you've started a family, there are different priorities that you'll have to make. In your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s, each stage of our lives, we have got, especially women, we have got to determine what our goals, what our priorities are, so that we make sure that we are spending and living within our budgets.